whenever we come into contact with other cultures, it opens our eyes, it broadens our horizons, it increases our understanding that there are other ways, there are other ways of conducting yourself, there are other philosophies about life, there are other approaches to life, and it widens our field of choices, and it can stimulate our imagination. And students of intercultural communication often talk about the development of what they call an intercultural identity. That's a sense of belonging to an original and a new culture at the same time. Several years ago, I felt the call to go to Asia and help with some missionary efforts. And my wife and I were not sure at that point if we might even end up in Asia as missionaries. But one thing we knew was that we had a burden for Chinese people, a burden for Chinese-speaking countries. And so I began to study Chinese. I hired a tutor who was an Air Force translator, who was fluent in Mandarin Chinese, and I began to study the language with him. And the Lord opened ministry opportunities for us. We were able to travel to Asia 5 times and minister there, and it was a great blessing. By taking the time to learn the language, by taking the time to study the culture, by taking the time to learn what was needed to adapt to that culture, when I get over there, whenever I was able to be among those people, I didn't feel as much of a stranger. I felt more of an intercultural identity. I could be Taiwanese, and I could be Chinese, and I could. No, I don't look like them. I'm taller than they are. I'm way bigger than they are. They don't have any clothes in that country that can fit me. But the fact of the matter is, I could interface with their culture, and I could become fluent in their culture, and I could learn their language, and I could buy and sell, and I wasn't just an alien and a stranger. I could communicate with them. Whenever I preached, I would always start my opening comments in Chinese, and the translator would translate them to English. And then, of course, once I got to the Word of God, I switched to English, and the translator translated to Chinese. But it was rewarding to me to be able to communicate in the language of the culture. Now, it can be difficult to learn how to interact with a culture. There are some barriers to intercultural communication that your book talks about. The first is perception. Perception has to do with the way that we derive meaning from our world. And our behavior can be understood only in the term of our own constructs, our own understanding. And many of those constructs are the products of our culture. When we perceive events and people, we attach values to them, and we make attributions about them. And our values and attributions are cultural specific. They are our perception of the world that is shaped by our culture. That makes it difficult then sometimes to interact with another culture, because my perception is different from the perception of that culture. And there's a clash between those two. And I have to learn to be aware that there's a difference in perception, the way we view punctuality, the way we view the need to work hard, or the way we view what it means to be studious, or the way we view a whole lot of things. There's a difference in our perception, and I have to be aware of that. Culture also helps us establish our identity. It tells us who we are and how we should act. And in every culture, people play certain roles. We don't expect the young to be the same as the old. We don't expect the rich to be the same as the poor. We don't expect men to act like women. We all have these cultural roles that we play. And being a good communicator means that you have to understand the role distinctions and adapt your communication accordingly. And when you move into another culture, the role distinctions change. There are different attitudes in other cultures about, for instance, age. We have a view of older people that we tend to venerate them, but nowhere near the same level that the Chinese people do. They almost worship their elders, and they do worship their ancestors. And so there's a whole different way of relating to age, and so you have to be aware of that. Sometimes there are differences in the way we relate to genders. You get in America, we look for equality in between the genders. But when you get overseas, especially in say Muslim countries, there's a vast difference in between men and women, and you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware of those role identities if you're going to communicate effectively into that culture. Our culture also tells us what goals we should pursue and how we should pursue them. In America, we have relatively high achievement motivation. We're generally characterized by effort optimism, the belief that hard work will pay off, that you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But people in other countries may expect to be rewarded on the basis of their social position or their family name or their family history rather than their own efforts. And so they may not understand our tendency to believe in hard work as the way to advance. They may think they advance on the basis of their caste in the society. Or there may be some societies and cultures where people just don't believe that they can be rewarded at all. They absolutely have no concept that I can work to make myself better. So the goal-oriented nature of middle-class America causes us to embrace a healthy work ethic. We work hard, no pain, no gain. We're all about putting it all out there, leaving it all on the field. We're gonna give it everything we have. We're gonna work hard to accomplish. We're gonna be overachievers. But in a lot of cultures, those type of character traits are considered to be overly ambitious. What we think of as a healthy work ethic, they may see as needless effort or even arrogance. And so you've got to be able to understand those expectations if you're going to communicate effectively into that culture. Another thing that culture affects is your worldview, your basic notions of human nature, including the extent to which you value yourself. That's a part of your worldview, and it is affected and shaped by your culture. Americans hold three basic beliefs about human nature. First of all, we believe that humans are at heart rational beings. Second, we believe that humans are perfectible, that they can grow, that they can become better than they are. And third, we believe that human nature is highly susceptible to social and cultural influence. Those three basic beliefs can be summed up in these three premises. First of all, the rationality premise. That's a belief that most people are capable of discovering the truth through logical analysis. That if we take a few moments and we work at it, we think about it, people are rational and they're thinking people, and we believe that they're capable of discovering truth. They're capable of understanding ideas and concepts. And so we believe that we can trust people to make the right decision. We believe that we can trust people to do the right thing, to come to the same understanding that we've come to. The perfectibility premise, your book says, is based on the old idea that humans are born in sin. I would say it's not an old idea. It is a truth. It is a fact. People are born into sin, but they are capable of rising above that. We're capable of achieving goodness, and not through effort and not through our works, but through the grace and the mercy of God, and through following the plan of salvation and submitting our lives to Him. But we do believe that people can get better. We do believe that you're not relegated to be what you always have been. We do believe that however your story is defined right now, this doesn't have to be the end of your story. Finally, the mutability premise assumes that human behavior is shaped by environment. It's the old nature versus nurture argument. And we do believe that culture and environment and society helps shape us as humans and helps us become and may even do some things to us that are detrimental, that are not helpful to us, but it does shape us. A person who grows up in a violent home, a home where there's violent, angry outbursts, may learn to be violent and angry, and that's a learned behavior that is impressed upon them by their environment, and those things can be overcome. We do believe that people are perfectible. We do believe that people can grow, but we also do believe that people can be shaped by their environment.